Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Today's webinar from Acumatica is Here are the Advantages of a True Cloud Solution. And today we're going to take you through and get a real deep dive look at what a true cloud solution looks like in this exclusive webinar for Sage 100 customers. Today, a couple housekeeping things to say at the top of the call so that we're all on the same page here. We will go through the slides and we have a live demonstration for you. As you're going through this content, if you have any questions, please feel free to send those in through the chat box tool. And then at the very end of the call today, at the end of the 30 minutes, we'll dig into the Q&A sessions and have a little bit of a live discussion. So send in your questions throughout and we'll get to them towards the end of the webinar. On today's call, we have Sean Chatterjee, VP of Partner Sales for Acumatica. And we also have Eric Moreau, the Partner Enablement and Pre-Sales Specialist for Acumatica. And they will be walking you through. First, Sean will take you through some of the background of a true cloud solution and why that's really important. And then we'll actually get into the product, and Eric will take us through a product demonstration. And then at the end, I'll come back on and we'll get to some of your exciting questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sean. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Michaela. My name is Sean Chatterjee, and just wanted to do a quick introduction before I get started with the presentation. I have actually spent almost 18 years in the ERP business, specifically geared towards small to mid-sized businesses. And of those 18 years, I've spent 6.5, close to 7 years now with Acumatica. And in my prior life, I used to work for companies that are in the legacy, are still considered kind of legacy products, if you will. I worked even at Sage for a little bit as well. So my perspective, having seen different products and having seen companies getting transformed is based on real life experiences. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that we are all about digital transformation. So when you're talking about moving on to the cloud-based solution, you're essentially taking a step towards completely transforming your business for this new digital age. So on one side of the slide, when you see this thing called analog businesses, these are businesses that have silos of information which are not connected to each other. They may have spreadsheet that is working as reports. They have mobile devices that are not connected, to the actual central system that runs the business. And on the other side, when you say digital businesses, these are businesses that are completely connected. So from the different operations in a business like sales and customer service, warehouse management, inventory, all of those different pieces of information are all connected. But also, they are connected in such a way that the users can make decisions based on the data that they're looking at. And that information stays with them even while they're traveling. So if they're on a mobile phone, they can just have one click of their mobile phone and see the business-related data that allows them to make decisions. So that's really the main difference between the two extremes of the businesses you see on that slide. Now, when we start working with a new business, a prospect, if you will, oftentimes we find that these prospects have different silos of data. They have different systems. So for instance, they might be using Sage 100 as their accounting system, but at the same time, they may use a system for the CRM and customer relationship management. The business might also have an e-commerce storefront, but that website is a completely different system on its own and is not connected to the inventory that is running the central business. So again, these are all disparate data sources. And what we do in Acumatica is to provide them one foundational system that connects the entire business. Now, Acumatica is very different in terms of not only the way the product is architected, but also the way that we have gone to market in terms of the positioning of the product, the pricing of the solution. So if you look at the way that the licensing works in terms of pricing, It is not based on user licenses. So if you've got 40 users, if you've got 50 users, if you've got 100 users, ultimately what you really pay for is based on consumption. So our goal is to have more people use the system and not less. So we've got businesses that scale from $10 million in sales all the way up to 200 million with very little incremental cost as they grew as business. So in our philosophy, we would like to encourage the growth of our customers and not penalize them for that growth. So this is absolutely unique in our space in the way that we do our licensing. The second thing that is just as important is access from anywhere on any device. In today's world, executives are running around different places while they're still running businesses. The worker bees, the same thing. You have salespeople who are going to customer site, who are getting up on an airplane, but at all times we want to make sure that not only can you access information on any device, but the access is optimized for the device, which means that if you're using a laptop, the way that the screens communicate with you and you interact with the screens might be completely different than how you would communicate, using a 5 or a 6-inch device. And that's the real beauty of Acumatica, that you can really optimize how you're consuming ERP based on the device that you're using. And then finally, this is really, really unique that we allow the customers to select what deployment model works best for them. Today, if you look at our customer base, 85% of our customers are on a fully managed SaaS solution. So when you say fully managed, the customer does not have to worry about hardware, worry about infrastructure, about database backup. If their servers were to go down on the West Coast, automatically within a matter of a few minutes, we can have disaster recovery kick in and an East Coast server might go live. So the business continuity is always restored. So that is what the preferred solution is. But then oftentimes you do have businesses that say that for whatever reason, they do not want to be on a public cloud and they would like to have their own dedicated server, or they may even choose to have the server at their own location. And we allow that option. Not only do we allow that option, we actually allow a customer to make a choice today, but make a switch from the choice maybe 2 or 3 years down the road when the business scenario changes for them. So we may have a client that may start off with a private cloud option, but a year down the road or 2 years down the road, they can say that, what? I would like to have everything be managed on Acumatica Cloud, and we don't want to be in this IT business anymore. So that's the real beauty. But as a reminder, the reason that customers choose the fully managed SaaS option is for all of these reasons you see on the right-hand side of this slide: compliance, disaster recovery, improved security, scalability, and ultimately, customers wanting to just get away from this business of managing servers and managing IT infrastructure. The other really nice thing about Acumatica and our approach is the open philosophy, where our entire technology stack is completely open to integrating with other clouds. You see a few examples here, and I can bet you that all of those listening into this webcast today are using cloud all the time. There are cloud applications all around us, whether it's Office 365, whether it is Power BI, whether it is Avalara, whether it is Magento. The beauty with Acumatica is that you can integrate with all of these different clouds. And later today, we're going to actually show you a short demonstration of how that works for your business. But for me as a user, I love the fact that I can integrate with Outlook, for example, or I can integrate with DocuSign. So this is a huge thing that helps our customers really push the envelope of how they're using and consuming the ERP system. If you look at our customer base, we have 4,000 plus customers today in all of these different industries, but the beauty is that most customers are not restricted to one kind of business. So it's not just a manufacturing company. Today, you are going to find that these lines are kind of intersecting, where you have a manufacturing company may also do e-commerce. They may also have a retail storefront. And so there's this intersection of different kind of businesses. And the real nice thing is that we provide a platform that has the ability to manage these different kind of businesses. So you have a wholesale and a manufacturing company also doing retail and e-commerce on the same exact platform. At the very high level, Acumatica's core product includes financials, project accounting, inventory management, and customer management. But we actually released a few editions that are specific to certain kind of businesses. So we have the field service edition, we have the commerce edition, we have the manufacturing edition, the distribution edition, and most recently, we also introduced our construction edition of the product. 2018 has been a fantastic year in terms of recognition, in terms of awards. The one that I personally feel the most proud of is the Cody Award, which is almost like the Oscar in our business. We won the Cody Award last year in 2017 for the best cloud ERP solution. And then in 2018, we not only won that same award again, but we also won the best manufacturing solution. So it's been a fantastic year so far, and look forward to more awards coming our way in the next few months. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Eric so that he can actually give you a quick glimpse of the product, and hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you very much for your time. Eric?
Very good, Sean. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Eric Moreau, and I will be your host for the next 12 or 13 minutes, taking you through a tour of Acumatica. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm just celebrating next week, believe it or not, Sean. It'll be my 1-year anniversary here at Acumatica, so hard to believe. And I work in the partner enablement and pre-sales teams. So with that, sit tight, buckle your seatbelts, because we're going to go on a really pretty good run here on Acumatica, starting with the fact that I'm logged in as a super user. Okay, so as a super user, I'm actually going to have access to all these workspaces that you see on the left-hand side, some that we'll touch on today, for example, projects and opportunities. But there's some additional items like contract management, fixed assets, deferred revenue, marketing, and support that are built into the product as well. Now, to Sean's point, we do also have construction, manufacturing, field service solutions that I do not have installed on my workstation at the moment. Because Acumatica is a role-based solution, as each user logs into Acumatica, they will see the workspaces that pertain to their specific roles. So we have very involved security that will allow us to maintain who has access to what workspaces, even down to the field level if necessary. A nice feature of Acumatica I'd like to share with you before we get to entering some transactions, excuse me, is this tool called Universal Search. Universal Search is a tool that allows me to search on virtually anything within Acumatica. Now, a great example that I can relate to is being an accountant is 1099s. You know, they come up once a year, and I may not necessarily remember where they are on my menus. So if I type in 1099, I'm going to see where they appear on the menu. But because I do them but once a year, or maybe I have some new staff using the solution, I can also click on Help Articles, and I'm going to see the articles that are associated with help in 1099. So for example, how do I close the 1099 year? How do I create that all-important e-file that I need to send to the IRS to complete my 1099s? And as you can imagine, we also have some transactions that happen to have 1099 associated with them. So there's AP check number 1099, there's a project 1099. So not only can I see menu items, help articles, I can also track down transactions that have 1099 associated with them as well. And then the last aspect of Universal Search I want to share with you, because it's pretty powerful, and we're going to see it again later on today as well, is underneath Files. So if I type in USA Project, I can actually see, in this case, it happens to be a Word document that's associated with a transaction within Acumatica. So we can store PDF, Word, Excel documents on master records and transactions, and then I can just use through Universal Search to locate that information or those files later on. I want to show you a little bit more about dashboards as well. So that's this multicolored report that you're looking at here, this dashboard. And again, we have a number of dashboards built into Acumatica that are role-based. Now, in this case, because I'm a controller, I want to see information as you can relate to from a controller's perspective. And then I can see overdue customers if I want. I can actually drill back and I can see who those customers are. I can get a nice little aging report here very quickly if I wanted to. Okay, so dashboards, the ability to drill back, get additional pieces of information. We can also use some colors, right? So I can use red for warning, hey, I need to bring this to your attention. Yellow for cautionary, and green means, these are acceptable forms of, numbers or quantities at discount. Another example of, role-based project management or a dashboard would be this project manager dashboard. Okay, so just again, as a project manager, I have all these projects. I need to be able to see what my tasks are, what are my overdue tasks, etc. How are we doing budget to actual? I also want to point out that the number of active projects currently is 9, because when we wrap up the session today, we're going to come back and we'll have pushed a project over from CRM, and we're going to update that, and it will now reflect 10 projects. But before we do that, I want to take a look at this last dashboard that I'm going to show you here is the customer view. And what this is, like the name implies, this is a high-level view of all of my customers, so all the number of orders to ship, open support cases, recent activities with customers as well. But then I could narrow down this search if I wanted to. Maybe I want to focus on one particular customer, so I'm going to look at USA Bartending School. In real time, just like that quick, I call up the customer, and I now have a new view of what's going on with that particular customer. So you can imagine yourself being a customer service person. The customer calls in, and very easily you're going to be able to access information as it relates to that customer. By the way, that's all configurable, so you can actually add whatever information is important to you. The other thing I want to show you is the sales order trend by month. Now, it may be tough to see with the multiple colors there, and so if I click on this little icon here, I can actually remove some of the documents. So I'm going to take off the sales orders. I'm going to focus my search on invoices and cash transactions. So just by doing that, now you can probably see the colors a little bit more distinctly at this point. The other thing that I can do is, 12 months worth of sales data. In some organizations, that can be, those earlier months could be ancient history. So I want to focus on the most recent 3 months. So I can now drag and drop, and I just changed that query to show me September, October, and November. So that's really the power of these dashboards. Is not only is it just a dashboard that gives me some nice numbers, got some nice colors on it, but I can actually make some modifications to this query on the fly and get to some additional pieces of information. And then the last thing I want to show you is, well, where else are dashboards coming in if they're, that's great that they're there, but where else can I use them? Well, here's a situation where I'm looking at a list of all my sales orders. And if I happen to call up USA Bartending, let's go ahead and choose USA Bartending. If I click on that, I can see on the right-hand side, we have these side panels. And the side panel is going to give me all that information, or basically it's the master record for USA Bartending. Okay, so I can see the billing information, deliveries, if I need to add contacts, because this is actually the master record that I'm looking at. So if I click on this contacts tab, I could at this point go ahead and create a new master record if I needed to. So side panels is something that we pride ourselves on. The other thing I want to show you is, if you click on this icon, now what are we looking at? We're looking at that sales view, that customer view dashboard that we saw just a few moments ago. So not only can I have that as a default page if I wanted to, or customer service, but as I'm looking at other transactions, in this case, all my sales orders, and if I scroll down here, there's the information that we saw, and including the ability to change that query on the fly if we needed to. Okay, so that was just a little bit of some of the neat features of Acumatica, some of the things that our prospects and customers find interesting and appealing. So now what I want to do is I want to continue my tour. And Sean, again, we pride ourselves on integration, and a great aspect of that is within Outlook. So Outlook integration is very powerful within Acumatica. And what you can see here is I have an email from, yours truly, I sent to myself, but just getting in the role here, I sent it to Max and says, here are the additional specifications you required so that you can provide us a project quote. Let me know if you have any questions. Great. But I'd love to have that stored in Acumatica. And if you look now, I actually have an Acumatica icon stored within Outlook. So it immediately recognized me based on my email address. It says my role is I'm the operations manager over at USA Bartending School. Well, from here, there's many things that I could do with this email. I could view the contact, who is Eric, or I could view USA Bartending. I can log activity, which we're going to do in just a moment, but I can also create cases, opportunities. So if I go ahead and log activity, say, that's great, Eric, what would you like to do? Well, would you like to assign it to Eric as a contact? Would you like to assign it to a case? Or would you like to assign it to an opportunity? Well, in this case, I'm going to assign it to an opportunity number 376. And I can see, yep, that's the consulting work for new classroom build-out. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. Okay, so let's just go ahead back over here to Acumatica. And again, let's use that nice, beautiful tool called Universal Search. And if I go and type op 376, there's my opportunity. Okay, and look, lo and behold, there is the email that I just brought over from Outlook. Okay, and including the Word document that was attached to it as well. Additional specifications for project quote. So I could open that. Okay, so very powerful. We pride ourselves in the integration. It's something, again, I've been around technology as long as Sean's been in technology. So being able to talk about Outlook integration in previous roles, that's all I ever did. I just talked about it. I was never able to demonstrate it. So it's a great tool. And again, by the way, I'm an accountant by trade. I'm not a strong technical user of Acumatica, and I was able to set up Outlook integration on my own in just a matter of minutes. Huge feather in our cap. Okay, talking about opportunities, let's take a look at what's going on here. So this is an opportunity that we're tracking for consulting work for new classroom build out. That's great. I got some notes up here. This is our third opportunity with USA Bartending. I also have a file here. If you remember earlier during Universal Search, remember I searched on a file name called USA Project? This is where that file was being stored. So hopefully that will help you make the connection of, so what do you mean? I can see a file and so what, but where's it being stored? Well, in this case, it's stored on the opportunity. So very easily, and oftentimes during demos, I hear, geez, you know, we have all these files, they're sitting on somebody's desktop, they're sitting, you know, in somebody's folder on their hard drive somewhere. Now we can store information right in Acumatica and be able to find that as necessary. Because we're looking at CRM, or what I call the front office, we're going to record all the touches of the sales opportunity. So Sam Malone called to mention upcoming build out. That was back in October. A little bit later, we called Sam back to set up a site review. Looks like on November 7th, we did a site review, and then there's today's email. So I can store all these touches. Well, because that email gave me the information I needed, I'm now going to create a quote. Well, because it's a project quote, we're going to create a project quote. But I also want to point out to you that when creating quotes, I can create a sales quote, and that's just that. It's a sales order for a bunch of inventory that we're going to be selling to them as well. However, because it's a project and because there are more, you know, components of projects than just a standard sales order, we're going to create a project quote and show you what that looks like. So I clicked on create and review. Now, it kind of happened kind of quick, but I want to point out we're no longer on the opportunity. Now we're on project quote, okay? And it's for opportunity number 376. Well, in Acumatica and working with projects, some of you may find that using templates makes life a little bit easier. And like the name implies, it just prevents me from having to re-enter data, if you will. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some work here. So I need some inventory. So not only do I look at project information, but I'm going to look at widgets. And we're going to add 100 widgets to this particular project. Now look what's happening here. As I enter information, not only does it tell me my sales value, it tells me my cost and what my margin is going to be. And I can also add some consulting hours here. So if I can spell and go to consulting and grab this item called project consulting, of which we're going to add 50 hours, I can go ahead and add that, and now my project is getting built out. I know if I have a target of 45% margin on all my projects, I know I'm right in the ballpark. But what's great about this is my salesperson is building out this quote or this opportunity, this project quote. They can immediately see whether or not this project is going to be profitable and save lots of people in the organization money and time. If we know it's coming in at 20% and we can't satisfy the customer's needs, we'll just have to move on to the next one. Okay, now that I've got that quote, I can submit it. Now, by submitting it, what it allows me to do is do other things like either copy it or send it or print it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and send this quote over. So, for example, it would be going to USA Bartending. Look, nothing really looked like it happened, but if I come over here to the Activities tab, look, there it is. It tracks that activity against this quote. Well, not only did it track it against the quote, but if I drill back on the opportunity, it now added it here as well. And that's what I love about our activities. It doesn't just store it in the one place. Acumatica is intuitive enough to know where else might we want to see that activity, and they will record it within there as well. Now, the scenario would be that we work back and forth with that particular customer, add more widgets, take away hours, and we're going to finalize the quote, and we can store all those renditions of the quote within CRM or customer relationship management. Once we finally conclude on that, from here we can actually convert to project. Now, what I'm going to do, there's all kinds of information that I can bring over, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the notes and I'm going to copy the files over to that project. Why? Because in my world here, real life example is just sometimes there's a disconnect between sales and what do we sell them and what's required and, you know, who's responsible for the, in this case, an implementation, for example. So because I was able to create that project, push it over from CRM, look what came over as well. The notes came over, as did that file come over as well. So now I have access to that information, and the project manager now can be very comfortable that they have all the information that they need in order to move forward. Now, in this case, what I'm looking at, I took it off of hold. We have project number 6. All right. Now, as we wrap things up here, I just want to show you, very powerful, take a look at this balances tab. So when I created that opportunity and I created that project quote, it started to compile all the revenue and expenses for me. Now that I've got project number 6, by the way, there's consulting work for new classroom build out. I have a nice little P&L that it was created when I pushed this into projects. As I enter my actual transactions, okay, it's now going to be able to be reflected in here, and I'm going to get my budget to actual variances, etc. And Michaela, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be coming to you in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to take you over here to Project Manager, and sure enough, we now have 10 projects where a few moments ago we had 9. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I know I was going very fast. Please, we'll be following up with you. Request a deeper dive demo from me, ask for me specifically. I would be glad to follow back up with you. Michaela?
All right. Thanks very much, Eric, for that. All right. Thanks very much, Eric, for that demo. We do have a few questions. And remember, I'm seeing some questions, but if you would still want to chat in, if you still have a question that you haven't asked yet, go ahead. We have a couple minutes here to go through questions. So, Sean, the first question is, you mentioned anywhere on any device. Does that include these dashboards that we've been looking at?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, you know, what you're going to find is that when you're using your mobile phone, the application, it becomes touch friendly and they resize itself. We also provide an open platform for mobile development. So there are some screens that has been specifically created for a 5 or a 6-inch device. So the answer to that is yes, but we can actually do more in terms of, you know, how we can make specific applications within this software touch and mobile friendly.
Okay, fantastic. The next question, Sean, is do you have any experience migrating from Sage 100 to Acumatica?
Yes, we do have a lot of customers who have migrated from Sage 100 to Acumatica. And in fact, you know, we have a lot of partners who happen to be Sage partners as well and have very large bases of customers which are Sage 100. And they have extensive experience, you know, having implemented Sage 100, having implemented Acumatica, they have extensive experience in doing those kind of migrations. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. And next question, Sean, is how much time does it take to implement the system?
Well, that question really, you know, to answer that question, I need to know a little bit more about your business. Typically, you're going to find that the implementation process can, you know, takes a couple of months, maybe 2 to 3 months. But there are some businesses where the complexities of the business, you know, may require more time to get the Acumatica system implemented. So it depends on your requirements, depends on what you're trying to implement. I always recommend a phased implementation approach so that you can only bite what you can chew. So you know, have a simple implementation to begin with, but then slowly start implementing other modules, if you will, or other functionality that will truly enable you to harness the power of Acumatica.
All right, thanks, Sean. It looks like that is all of the questions that we have right now. So and we are just at about time, but if we didn't answer your question or if you have more questions, want to find out more about Acumatica, this webinar is being recorded And we will send a recording out to everyone who registered for the call, and this will also be available on the Acumatica website at acumatica.com/webinars. So you can still dig in and find out more later. I wanted to make sure that we covered that.
Absolutely. I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for your precious time today. We will follow back up with you to see if you enjoyed the webinar and to also understand if you have specific questions that we can answer for you. So expect a follow-up from Acumatica in the next few days. And again, thank you so much for your time and attendance, and look forward to speaking to you. Have a good day.